Welcome to the Lifeitarian. 360 degrees of life. In this space, Monique shares her personal journey. You will be inspired, encouraged, and empowered as you live your everyday life. Here's your host, Monique Monke.
Hey, Lifeitarians. Today's episode, I will be sharing with you the gift was a miracle and the bow was a bandage. Being a young widow definitely had its challenges. I found myself on very unfamiliar ground, being a newly single woman, a single mother, and a brand new resident of Atlanta, Georgia. Dating and relationships were definitely not on my radar. But as fate would have it, I met a very handsome gentleman in the spring of 2010. His name was Ruben. Our friendship developed very quickly. We found it easy to enjoy each other. We had a lot of things in common, and we had fun experiencing lots of things together, like going to concerts, movies, dinners, lunches, picnics in the park, and attending basketball games. You know how new relationships are. The main thing that we shared was a mutual desire for success, happiness, and love. I had to have a minor eye procedure performed at Grady Hospital, and I tried to conceal it from him. That was an epic fail. He happened to be present at my follow-up appointment. I did not think it would be a problem because normally a physician asks for your permission before discussing your personal medical information in front of someone who may be in the room with you. I was not that fortunate. I was quite surprised when the physician walked into the room and said to me, "There's no easy way for me to tell you this, but you are losing your eyesight at a very rapid pace, and I need to refer you to the Center for the Visually Impaired so you may begin training immediately." Training? For what? Wait, what did he just say? Did he just say that I'm going blind? In that moment, I felt like all of my emotions had been placed in a blender and turned on the highest speed. I don't know what was worse, the shock and devastation of what he just said to me, or the embarrassment and dismay that I felt realizing that this guy that I was falling so hard for heard it also. At that point, I couldn't even hear anything else that the doctor said. I walked out of the office crying uncontrollably. When we got back to his vehicle and he started to drive to take me home, I mustered up the courage to tell him that I thought we needed to pump our brakes. This was a lot for me to process myself, and I could not even imagine a man who would want to take on all of that as well. As I continued crying, snotting, and trying to put him in the friend zone, he gently reached over the console in his truck to grab my hand, and he said to me, "Woman, I already love you. I'm not going nowhere. I got you." Well, now, that made me start crying harder. How incredible was this? He knew I was going blind, and he still chose me. We were married 18 months after we met on January 20th, 2012. My vision continued to get progressively worse. I did begin training with a mobility trainer and an assistive technology trainer so that I could learn how to live without my eyesight. One of my lifelong dreams was to visit the continent of Africa. With my loss of vision, I did not know how it would happen, when, why, or which of the 54 countries, but I knew that someday I would visit the continent of Africa. 6 years later, this dream was realized during a study abroad trip in the summer of 2016, when I spent an amazing month in West Africa. It was a life-changing experience for me. I experienced many unbelievable, emotional, and wonderful occurrences during my visit, but one in particular experience would prove to be absolutely miraculous. My main residence was located in Yiri Lodge at the University of Ghana in Accra. I was privileged to visit Kumasi, Tamale, and the Ivory Coast. I shopped for spices, shea butter, and sea salt. I had several garments created by a local seamstress. I walked through the castles of enslavement at Cape Coast and Elmina. On the last Sunday of our trip, I was given an exclusive tour of the W.E.B. Du Bois Center for Pan-Africanism, which included his residence, his library, the museum, and I had an opportunity to kneel and pray at his gravesite. That was very personal for me. The day that changed my life began with our visit to the shrine in Larteh, where we were welcomed by various people in the village. We were required to remove our shoes prior to walking the sacred ground that led to the village shrine. Once we were inside and seated, we were given cool water to hydrate after our journey through the village in the hot African sun. The Akan priestess entered, and through a translator, she welcomed us. She offered up a prayer that included the ceremonial pouring of libations and the honoring of the ancestors. She spoke of some of the history of the shrine and explained the process by which she became a priestess. She openly engaged in a question and answer session which went on for about an hour. As we were about to leave the shrine, the priestess gently touched the right side of my face and spoke to me in her native language of Twi. I did not understand what she said, but I heard her. The translator caught me as I exited the shrine to tell me that the priestess said to me, "Speak what you see." We reboarded our bus to travel to the botanical gardens for lunch and an afternoon of experience in the gardens. I sat quietly in my seat with my face angled at the window because I didn't want everyone to see the tears that were streaming down my face. I didn't understand why the priestess said that to me because, in fact, I couldn't see very much of anything at all. Once we arrived at the restaurant, the service took a long time, but it was well worth the wait. Lunch was delicious. I had chicken kebabs and fried rice. It was so good that I ordered a second platter to take back to the compound for my dinner. We boarded our bus again and traveled to a different village to speak with a group of local women. Again, we were welcomed by everyone. There was again prayer, the ceremonial pouring of libations, and the honoring of the ancestors. These women graciously shared their time and space with us, answering our many questions about marriage, employment, disabilities, etc. As the session closed, several of the women offered us advice to take with us as we walked back to our bus. I did stop as a student used my phone to take a picture of a lowly goat that was tied to a wall. I wondered if this little goat was a sacrificial animal, a commodity, or a source of food for the village. We walked back to the bus and boarded to take the ride back to Yuri Lodge. Upon our return to the compound, I went back to my room to finish up some writing for a reflection assignment. 1 week after we returned to Atlanta, Georgia, I had to have a cataract removed from my right eye. This procedure required that I return for a follow-up visit with my ophthalmological surgeon on the very next day. To my surprise and hers, when she removed my bandage, I could see. At first, she thought I meant things just seemed a little brighter. That is until I helped her understand that I could actually see her and the eye chart. I was born with a rare genetic eye disorder called retinitis pigmentosa. My eye care team consisted of an ophthalmologist, an optometrist, a retina specialist, and a glaucoma specialist. These people are scientists. In their world, everything has a scientific explanation, but they could not understand or explain what possibly caused me to regain sight in both of my eyes after a simple cataract removal. Not only did I regain sight in both of my eyes, I no longer have glaucoma. I am still classified as legally blind because my eyesight is not perfect, and the doctors say that I technically still have the genetic disease that caused me to go blind in the first place. The data in my medical records cannot be denied. The differentials in the scientific numbers are too great to be mistakes. I believe that the Akan priestess, known for performing miracles in that small village in Larteh, blessed my eyes, and for that I am truly grateful. I will include a link in the show notes to the National Eye Institute's website, where you can learn more information about the rare genetic eye disorder called retinitis pigmentosa, or RP. I wrote this last reflection titled My Africa in Accra, Ghana on June 26, 2016. She welcomed me like a child gone from home too long. She stood there strong and proud, wearing a beautiful garment of red, gold, and green with a black star in the center. She was humming a tune that was somewhat familiar to my soul. My auntie, my cousin, my great-grandmother, my Africa. She was patient and kind as I tried to find my footing amidst the unfamiliar palette, aromas, sights, landscape, and soundscape. My auntie, my cousin, my great-grandmother, my Africa. She showed no hesitation in preparing a celebratory feast befitting a queen in my honor. She engaged me in discussions that were intellectual, spiritual, and historical in nature. My auntie, my cousin, my great-grandmother, my Africa. She took great pride in introducing me to my extended family in the halls of universities, greeting me on the roadside with fresh coconut water in villages, botanical gardens, and museums, at weddings, and even during a family member's final funeral rites. My auntie, my cousin, my great-grandmother, my Africa. She ushered me barefoot into a shrine where I was honored by the presence of an Akan priestess who blessed me in her native language with a prayer and the ceremonious pouring of libations. I was seated near the linguist who translated the dialogue that followed. It was amazing. My auntie, my cousin, my great-grandmother, my Africa. She showcased the women of the family who were entrepreneurs, from farmers who gave me fresh mangoes to seamstresses who dressed me in beautiful African fabrics. There were artisans who created beautiful jewelry and carvings in the open-air markets. There were educators. Some were grade school teachers and others were college professors. My auntie, my cousin, my great-grandmother, my Africa. She encouraged me to find the rhythm of my heartbeat in the tempo of African drums while African bodies moved all around me in celebration of African dance. My auntie, my cousin, my great-grandmother, my Africa. She inspired me to openly accept, assess, and articulate in teachable moments all that she is, all that she represents, and all that she has yet to unveil. My auntie, my cousin, my great-grandmother, my Africa. She led me to the castles where our family had been enslaved. She showed me the door of no return. I stood on that shore as my stomach churned. This is the place where she lost sight of them as they were stolen from her so long ago. My auntie, my cousin, my great-grandmother, my Africa. She showered me with love and helped me understand that growth can be vexatious unless your mind expands. She gently cautioned me not to let the things I see get lost in the translation between my mind and what I speak. My auntie, my cousin, my great-grandmother, my Africa. She stimulated my mind with comprehensive conversations about the post-colonial residual effects that patriarchy continues to use in its efforts to oppress, while unequivocally the women of the family continue to rise up to fuel the fires that will liberate. My aunties, my cousins, my great-grandmothers, my Africa, my Africa, my Africa. Until next time, Lifeitarians, I offer you life, love, and light.
Don't forget to subscribe for more episodes of The Lifeitarian and follow Monique on all social media platforms at The Lifeitarian.